So we look back in our inventory of what we worked on, whatever companies we work for, the position, and we start to create a list of all the great things that we achieved when we worked at that company. So it's almost as if you're creating, your annual review of all the great things you've done. But you're reaching back as far as you can, and you need to go ahead and write this down so you can select from this list, this potential list of success stories, what is important as it pertains to the job that you're going for or the job opportunity that you're going for. So how do we determine what is a success story? So basically the two questions that you'd have to address is, what have I accomplished in my previous job, and what makes me a winner that this new potential employer will want to hire me. So we are creating this a list of success stories so that we can either use it in the interview or use it in a cover letter or possibly use it in the resume when we are creating the unique resume. And when we are looking at, creating success stories, how do we define this? Well, it could be considered perhaps areas of accomplishment, right? So you may have increased, profits. You might have done something to reduce the overhead. You may have helped the company save time and money. You may have helped the company to attract a new customer base. You may have helped your team or your department um, by identifying a problem that exists that nobody was aware of, things like that. All right, so these are areas of accomplishment that you could assess by looking back in your previous employment, and that you could write down, and they now become part of your success story. Okay, so when we are identifying an accomplishment, like for instance, if we're going into the interview and we want to talk about our accomplishment, you typically identify an accomplishment by telling a story. All right. So in other words, you would deliver a story um, based on something that happened in the past as it relates to the job that you're going for. Okay. It's not just a story that's not related to the job. It's a story that may be partially related to the job that you're interviewing for. But this story must include specific components of the situation, the tasks, the actions, and the results. So we call that the STAR method, STAR, where S means situation, T for task, A for action, and R for result. Okay, so if we are thinking about a success story or an accomplishment, we could say that the situation could be the time that, for instance, the situation could be an example like this, that perhaps um, when they're processing salaries for the corporation, perhaps the time involved is way too slow. And you have identified that this is a situation that needs to be corrected. So that's the situation. So, as an example, let's say that the processing time for salary increases is too slow. And so, what is the task? Well, your task now um, is important, which is to reduce the payroll processing time. So that becomes the task for this challenge, okay? And what is the action? Your action or the action is what you did to try and resolve this issue, okay? So you may have created a flow chart and identify the current procedure, perhaps identify duplication, and developed a new procedure or new flow chart so you could show the eventual results. And then what are the results? Well, the results are, did something happen from this? Was it positive? And obviously the positive thing could be that you reduce the processing time, by a certain amount, a certain percentage. All right. So when you are creating your accomplishment story at the interview, or you are identifying perhaps in your sales pitch why you may be such an important candidate, or you are doing your infomercial through your networking, and you decide that you want to use an accomplishment, you can create this story by using this method. Okay, remember it's STAR, and it is a very simple way to approach creating the story. to show result. So the most important thing is obviously you start and the finish. So we have the situation and the results, and really that's what this slide is all about. Okay, so let's move forward and talk about the next slide. So um, when we're looking back and we're getting ready to reinvent ourselves in career transition and move forward in the workforce, we need to keep a work journal. We need to track all of our accomplishments. So for those of us who are in career transition and obviously may not be presently working, we're going to look back, as I mentioned before, and we're going to tap into our performance reviews. We're going to tap into all the emails that we kept or that we forwarded to our private, email address, of all the testimonials that the employees or potential candidates or our customers or even management gave us. We would identify all the course and the training that we received and we excelled at, perhaps even um, photos of receiving awards, or you could talk about the awards, um, or anything that can help us create this accomplishment profile. All right, but you have to go ahead and start tracking your accomplishments, because this is what's going to be used to successfully deliver a very high performing interview when you get that opportunity. And the whole key in doing the job search is to get to the interview, obviously. Okay, so let's talk about step 4. So writing the resume. So this is critical, and I want to put some emphasis on this, that it is critical that we create brilliant resumes today so that we can get to the interview. And how are we going to do that? Well, we are going to utilize artificial intelligence, and we are going to utilize AI, and that could be any tool that you choose to use. It could be ChatGPT, it could be Microsoft Copilot, it could be Google. Give me 1 sec here. I'm just going to mute my audio for 1 minute. I apologize. I'll be right back. I just have someone at the door to the conference room. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you. So let's talk about the resume. The resume becomes so important because today, if we don't create this resume that matches the job description, we're not going to be able to have that resume pass through the scanning software, which is either an AI tool in itself, or it could be what we have known to be what we call applicant tracking system, which is a software scanning tool, or it could be Talio, but I don't think they use Talio anymore. So when we're creating our resume today, the intent of the resume is to get us to the interview. And as a result of that, creating the resume, if you do not match the resume to the job description and show that there's some kind of comparison hit between what you have in your document versus what the employer is asking for, then your resume is not going to be forwarded for further review. So the software scanner will assess the content of your resume. It will then compare it to what the employer is asking for, and they will look for a match. It could be a 75% or greater match, or whatever the employer wants to dial in. And once that comparison is made, the resume is either going to be moved forward into the review stream, or it will be discarded. Now, the resume, if it is discarded, you will still get an automated response from the site that you apply to. Could be a company, could be an employer, it could be a recruiter or whatever, that would say, thank you very much for your resume or your application. We will be in touch with you as soon as we review you the document, but it's not telling you that your resume was discarded or trashed. It's just allowing you to believe that it's still in process. So this becomes a problem because a lot of us who have applied to jobs may have gotten this automated message, and we keep wondering why no one is reaching out to us. And that was because the resume that you created did not sufficiently match the employer job requirements, and so it was discarded. So this becomes really critical today. And so what are we going to do? We're going to leverage AI to actually create the resume for us. Okay, so let me just scroll through here. Okay, it's important that we be very, very knowledgeable. Give me one sec. I just have a chat here. Yes. Yes. So basically, they're using, as Melissa said, they're using iSIMS, applicant systems, or ATS, right? Yes. Absolutely. So it's important to try and figure out how can we leverage the existing tools today to help us to get through this scanning software of ATS or possibly any other new AI that's coming into the marketplace. And so what we do is that using an AI tool like some of the ones I've mentioned, we will have this AI tool help us in creating a resume, either updating our existing resume or a master resume and matching it to the job description. So the scenario is like this. Um, if we have not been utilizing AI before, this would be the scenario. So we would open up the AI tool through Google. Google search, we could say ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini, and we would open up that tool. So basically the tool opens up and there is a prompt that says, how can I help you? And that's the AI interfacing with us now through the keyboard. And so you'd ask it a question or request a favor. You'd say, could you please help me create a resume for this job opportunity? And it would say, absolutely, please load the job description. So you'll copy in the entire job description. Don't worry about the sorting out through the job description. Just copy the entire job requirement, paste it into the section of the AI toolbox, and then it will then come back and say, please paste your resume. Now, of course, you should have a resume at this point. If you don't, it can create one for you as well. So you would paste that resume, and within a couple of seconds, it will create your updated resume that matches as close as possible to what the employer is asking for. And so you are now in this mode with the AI tool to decide if you want to use the initial result that they just created, or if you want to refine it and keep working with the AI tool to complete that resume. So the resume that it has created for you is specifically for the job description of this one opportunity. Okay. And at that point, once it creates the resume for you and you agree to it, it will then say, would you like me to create your cover letter? And you will say yes, and it will create a absolutely beautiful cover letter based on the job description of the employment opportunity and based on your resume that you just refined with AI. So you have this really well-crafted cover letter that looks absolutely fabulous. So now you have these two documents. And the third thing that we would typically ask you in the sequence is, would you like me to create a sales pitch for you? And typically you would say, yes, this is your sales pitch that you could use for your networking or for the interview, right? So it would then take your resume and the job description and create your sales pitch, which is something that you would use to sell yourself, either in say 7 seconds to 15 seconds. It's all about you, all the great things that you've done, all right, as it relates to that job description. And then you have these three documents together. Now, at this point, you don't necessarily want to go ahead and email this resume and cover letter. At this moment, you want to absolutely be ready for the potential interview. And the reason why is that if you email the resume and the cover letter to this job opportunity and they come back within half an hour or an hour later to ask you to do a telephone screen interview or possibly a one-way automated screen interview, you are not ready with your interviewing techniques, and you'd be doing a major disservice to yourself. So you would then take advantage of AI because it will ask you this: would you like me to create an interview question and answer guide for this job opportunity as it relates to your resume? And you would say yes. And you will work, and it will do it for you in a couple seconds. And you will work with AI to go ahead and create a very sophisticated interview question and answer guide for this one job opportunity. Okay, it could be 10 questions, could be 20, could be 30, how many questions you want. You will work with the tool. Now, once you do that, you can choose to go ahead and email the resume and cover letter to the job opportunity, but I would suggest that you would take advantage of doing a mock interview with the AI tool. And the AI tool is receptive for this as well. So you could say, could you please do a mock interview with me based on the interview questions and answers that you just helped me create? And it would say, absolutely. So you could choose to do it through keyboard interface, or you could choose to do it through audio interface. And so the tool will work with you where it can be the employer or the interviewer asking you the questions. You will then reply either through microphone audio or through keyboard, whichever you want, and it will critique you and suggest how you can improve the answer. Now, once you feel comfortable with the interview questions, depending on how many you ask or play with you and the AI, because remember, your AI is now your AI tool. Whichever one you're using is now your mentor, your coach, your assistant, your buddy, your friend. It is there to help you. All right, it's like an extension of your mind. All right. Once you feel comfortable, now you can go ahead and send out your resume and your cover letter, right? And if you do that, then you'll feel very comfortable that you've been able to very productively get yourself ready for this employment opportunity. So in the past, before AI existed, we would be spending, typically for this scenario that we just talked about, we would typically be spending anywhere from 8 hours to 10 hours to do this. And this is just one opportunity. But with AI, they've done all of this for you as far as creating the resume, the cover letter, the sales pitch, the interview question and answer guide, and get ready for you to do, your practice. Um, all of that was done within, say, half an hour, if you're, or an hour, let's say. So you've taken this 8 hour or possibly 4 6 hour engagement before AI, and you've now dropped it down to 1 hour. So here's the other thing that the AI can do for you. It can do all your job searching for you. So once you build this relationship with the tool and you feel comfortable using it, now remember that you should have a username and a password. So you'll always log into this tool so it can remember everything that it's doing with you. Because if you don't have an account with it and the account is free, then it's going to forget everything it did after, typically within a day, it will forget. So the next time if you basically are asking it questions and then you exit out, or you sign off and you come back in, if you don't have an account, it's not going to remember anything that it did with you. So you keep an account so it'll remember everything. And so now you can have it do all your job searching. Now this is where the time savings comes in, because once it does all your job searching, then you can identify which jobs you want to use based on what it found, and you can now have the tool create all your documentation, and possibly you won't need to do the interview answer guide as deep as initially, because you'll have a very good feeling about your capability. And so this makes you highly productive. So we're looking at anywhere from an 80% to a 90% time saving when we're using AI to do our job search. Okay, and bear with me here. I'm just going to put myself on mute 1 sec. Bear with me. Thank you. We have a lot of interruptions today. So anyway, that's your resume. Okay, so let's move forward and talk about the next slide here. Refining your sales pitch. So we just spoke about the sales pitch. All right, and what is the sales pitch? Basically, the sales pitch is going to be used um, when you're introducing yourself to individuals, either in your networking, it could be through your online, if you're doing LinkedIn, or it could be online when you're communicating with the individual, or it could be in person. So there are 5 talking points for your sales pitch. So remember, the sales pitch is something that you write out, can be created by AI. It's a paragraph, and you deliver it within, say, 7 to 15 seconds max. So it's all about who you are, as it identifies on the slide, what you want to do, why you're so good at it, why you like doing this, and what you want to receive from the other person that you're speaking to. Okay, so you're reaching out to an individual. If it's for an infomercial, like you're networking, you're going to use your sales pitch to introduce yourself to this person, identify obviously your name, your previous career, what you're very good at, why you like doing this, and what you would like to ask them, um, so that they can assist you in either finding information about a company, or possibly giving you information about job opportunities. Okay, so that's the sales pitch. As far as the infomercial, say you can use it at social events, or you could use it at a job fair, or wherever you're going. But you can also use your sales pitch to introduce yourself at the interview, um, which is a very professional way to introduce yourself when you meet the individual at the interview. So I basically, instead of you sitting down and basically waiting for the first question, um, to be asked, which could be anything from tell me about yourself, or why do you want to work here, which you can use the sales pitch for as well. You're just going to open up the small talk, and you're going to identify um, use your sales pitch to introduce yourself and all the great things about you. Okay, so typically these are the 5 points that you talk about in your sales pitch. So the sales pitch is really a verbal summary. I know this slide says 15 to 30 seconds. That's a long time to talk, and you're probably going to bore somebody by taking it all the way out to 30 seconds. So I'd say anywhere from, say, 7 to 15 seconds. So it's your verbal summary that you use to sell yourself. So you're going to write it, you're going to practice it, you're going to memorize it, and you're going to share it with everyone that you're networking with, that want to know who you are, and how they can help you. All right, so that's what the sales pitch is all about. So here's an example, and remember, this is just an example. All right, by no means do you have to do this. So it would be, my name is, say, Michael Nation. I'm a business analyst and documentation specialist, and I'm currently in career transition. So that's your introduction right there. And you could say, at my last job, I was able to save $65,000 in contract fees on a project, by creating user documentation and in-house training. So that's if you're in a conversation with someone that's already possibly in some kind of project management or something like that. All right. This is not obviously a sample that you'd use when you're introducing yourself to an individual, because they may have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, and then you go on to say, my particular strengths are business process performance data. I'm looking for business analyst position or marketing opportunity in Broward County. I want to be part of the team that's engaged in process improvement. Okay, is this a good example? Absolutely not, and I apologize. It really needs to be rewritten, especially for this presentation. But it is what it is on the slide deck. So this is an example of a sales pitch, okay? And you do want to try and deliver it between 7 and 15 seconds. And of course, they're suggesting here to add an accomplishment statement. Well, if you put an accomplishment statement in there, that's going to extend this thing all the way out to obviously like a minute. All right, so that'd be something you could talk about next. But here's another example. All right, so my name is Michael Nation. I'm currently in career transition after spending 20 years working with AT&T. Half of my career has been corporate business sales, and the other half was in management roles, including project management. I'm looking to transfer my skills to an HR and sales position in the healthcare industry. So this is something that's more pertinent for you selling yourself. Um, I'm not suggesting that you'd use this structure, but basically what you do is introduce yourself, identify where you work, identify what you did, um, possibly then identify where you're trying to go, and obviously not only where you're trying to go, you're possibly going to identify what company or industry you'd like to work in. So this is like your sales pitch when you're talking to somebody in like a hookup, in a professional environment at a job fair, or when you're just networking your way through meeting others. Okay, so that's a suggestion. No, you don't have to necessarily use the structure that we've just identified on this slide. You can go into Google, or you can even ask AI, and you could say, um, for this job opportunity, um, let's say that you're using AI. Um, Please create a sales pitch, right? And it will say, please load the job opportunity, please load your resume, and bingo, within 1 or 2 seconds, it creates a really unique sales pitch that you can use and easily memorize, okay? So it's taking all your skills, your abilities, your past experience, and obviously aligning it to the job opportunity of where you want to go, and creating this um, sales pitch that you can use to sell yourself, all right? Um, or you can go into Google, into the search engine, and you can say um, sales pitch for customer service, sales pitch for accountant, sales pitch for engineer, sales pitch for a warehouse, and it will give you a generic sales pitch that you can use if you're more favorable to that type of research or experience. All right, so you don't have to use AI, but you can certainly leverage using Google search engine to accomplish this. So you don't have to, be worried about creating your sales pitch. Just use a tool to create it for you, right? So next thing is gathering your references. So your references are people that obviously identify um, knowing you, and actually not only just knowing you, but are willing to make the effort to try and help you secure employment opportunities, will validate your experience, your good character, and all the great things about you. Now, when we create references, we would typically create a reference sheet. So here's an example, okay? Now, on this reference sheet here, it is just like your resume. So the references are never attached to the resume, it's a separate document. So you'd identify your contact information. It must match the resume as you see at the top, okay? On the left side, you have your professional references. On the right, it's what these references do, okay? Now, what's critical here is that your references that you list must obviously be willing to be a reference for you. They must have a copy of the resume that you're interviewing um, for with the company. They must also have a discussion with you to understand what they should say and what they should not say. So whoever you're going to ask to be your reference, they have to spend some time with you and to become synchronized with your job search and your potential employment opportunities and your interviews, etc. Now, if you are in the mode of securing many job interviews, that means that your references may become overwhelmed with a lot of unique resumes for these specific job opportunities, or they may be overwhelmed with you reaching out to them to tell them all the companies that you're interviewing with. Okay, so you have to be really careful about who you choose as a reference, because if they're not aligned with you, they can actually destroy your credibility. So just remember, these are individuals that are going to have to spend time with you to understand your resume, the company that you're working with, and understand things that they can say and cannot say about you. So, what is the ratio as far as references? Typically, it's 3 to 2. So it'd be 3 professional and 2 private. So the private cannot be your family members or your friends, but it can be someone that you basically never worked with before, whereas your professional references are the individual that you may have worked with before. Okay, so let's move forward and talk about updating LinkedIn. And give me 1 sec here, I just have to verify this information. Oh, sorry about that. Just making sure the slide deck is complete. Okay, so what is LinkedIn? LinkedIn is basically your professional job search engine that you must absolutely belong to. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free. It's a free service. Okay, and I'm just going to scroll through here so that we can look at this information. Give me 1 second to talk about this. Good. Okay. So when we are actually deciding to use LinkedIn as our professional search engine, because it is the best professional job search engine out there, and it basically is much more um, it's much more well designed as far as algorithms to allowing you to network with individuals and do your potential job search for the hidden job markets, more so than Twitter or Instagram or MySpace or Facebook, and possibly some of the others that you may think about. LinkedIn happens to be the best professional job search social media platform out there, and everyone should have an account if you're serious about using it to find the hidden jobs or to network with people through social media to land an opportunity. Okay, so if you have an existing LinkedIn account and it's stale, such as mine, I created mine 15 years ago and never updated it, and obviously it's dormant, so I don't publicize it. I don't suggest that I have an account to anyone. But if I were back in the job market and deciding that I was going to move forward, I would obviously completely revise my LinkedIn profile. If your LinkedIn profile is not current, like if it is 6 months old and you haven't touched it, you need to address that issue. Okay, so LinkedIn is a social media job professional engine where you can find the hidden jobs and network with people to get employment. And obviously, you do so by establishing a profile that extends your credibility, enhances your resume. Now, what is the resume that you post on LinkedIn? It is not, it is a master resume. It is not, in other words, you don't keep uploading new resumes to that profile based on the job opportunity. So you take the master resume that you have that is not necessarily tailored to a specific job opportunity, and you would upload it, which says everything about you. Okay, so this becomes a master resume. And this is going to be static. It's not going to be ever changed, all right, unless you want to update it. But it is not going to be continually changed based on job opportunities, all right? So when you're creating your profile in LinkedIn, you upload your master resume, which is a static master resume, and you're also identifying your accomplishments, and so that you are using this to market yourself, to bring recognition to yourself, because people are going to reach out to you when you're building your groups, and you're obviously going to be using it to sell yourself and to find the hidden job markets through networking. So what you'll be doing is you're in this portfolio that you have, or your LinkedIn profile, you're going to basically also have a professional photograph of yourself. This professional photograph is something that you take. I would suggest that you take it either using a professional camera, but you certainly don't take it with your cell phone, because that could do a lot of injustice to you. So you're going to be dressed very professional. If it's men, obviously you're going to be wearing a dress shirt. You're going to be well groomed. You're going to be probably wearing a tie as well. Okay, and this is a shoulder headshot, so this is not a full photograph of you. And if you are a lady, obviously you're going to do very well in making yourself highly professional and presentable as well. But it all comes down to, you know, using this picture to sell yourself. So this goes on your profile, okay? And the intent of LinkedIn is, once you build your profile, is to use it to connect with people who may be working in the same industry or have similar career paths. And you're going to be asking for recommendations and endorsements so that you can hook up with individuals to have them identify potential job opportunities that are not advertised. And this is what we call the hidden job market. Okay, so that's the social media method of networking using LinkedIn. Okay, now you can also use LinkedIn to hook up with the staffing agencies that are also controlling the hidden job market. All right, and that you do through doing your internet search in the LinkedIn database. And if you haven't played with it, then I would encourage you to start playing with it, because it can create a tremendous response as far as employment opportunities. Now, the question is, how much time do we utilize being on LinkedIn to search for job opportunities? So initially, when we spoke about this presentation, we talked about that job searching is not a 4 hour a day method, okay? This is more like a 10, 12, 14, possibly even larger involvement. But we have been blessed with artificial intelligence. So now that has taken a lot of time off of our hands to spend with, selling ourselves either through online networking or in-person networking. So how much time do you utilize LinkedIn is really up to you. I would suggest 2 hours minimum per day, because this is where most of your jobs, if you do it successfully, are going to come from. All the potential great jobs are going to come from, because you're selling yourself out there. In other words, you're hoping that an individual in your group, in your LinkedIn group, will be able to sell yourself to a potential hiring manager so they can bring you in for an interview. All right. So we're going to basically build our network. And as a result of building our network, let me just click through here and go to the bottom. Okay, cool. As a result of building our network, we're going to make a list of everyone that you know to start connecting with. So my suggestion is that you make a list of all the people that you know in person, which means that your family member, your friends, and all your previous acquaintances, either your co-workers, your teachers, your employers, etc., all the people that you're in good standing relationship with, that may exist on LinkedIn or may not exist in LinkedIn. Okay, so that's your primary list. And then you're going to start now reaching out to build your network even more through referrals and introductions. And you're going to network your way using this technology, this social media technology, so that you can get to know people who have some information about where the jobs are based on your credentials. Because if you reach out to an individual and solicit assistance in them identifying where these potential job opportunities are, they're going to look at your profile, they're going to identify your resume and all your attributes, and then they're going to make a decision if they can assist you or not. If everything looks good as far as um, what they can do for you, and if they feel comfortable that they can refer you, then they're obviously going to accept your invitation as far as networking with them, and they're going to reach out to you in some type of, communication, either through LinkedIn chat or direct email or possibly text message to identify how they can help you. Okay, so you are using LinkedIn and you're building your network, but you're looking for people, not jobs. You're going to be utilizing the people to find you the jobs. So in reality, you're building your network to bring a lot of people into your group. Because if you happen to, as an example, the 50-25-1 rule below, if you happen to reach out to, say, 50 individuals, these are now your, say, 50 contacts in your group, they might generate like 20 leads, which might lead to 5 interviews and leads to a job. Now, is this um, instantaneous? No. This is a sad reality that a lot of us have to face, that if we are going to utilize LinkedIn to build our network, to find jobs, this is not something that's instantaneous. It will take time because you have to market yourself out there and you have to build a presence. But like every good thing, it takes time for these good things to happen, okay? So we're not going to um, not use the job boards. We're going to keep utilizing the job boards. We're going to use social media, LinkedIn, to reach out for the hidden job market. But at the same time, we are going to contact the staffing agencies. So the staffing agencies are key for you securing employment. It is probably the fastest way to get a job, much faster than using LinkedIn. And I would highly suggest to everyone on this call that as a professional, you should be reaching out to staffing agencies, making contact with them. You can either find them through LinkedIn or you can just basically Google them, and you should introduce yourself and identify that you want to start working with them to help you find these job opportunities. All right, this is so important. All right, so that's going to be part of building your network. Now let's talk about step number 9. Well, they call this obtaining supplies, but really this is really not supplies. This is something that's very important. When you are networking to sell yourself as a professional, you need to have a business card. And while some of us on this call may not have the necessary funds to go ahead and do that, it's important that you take advantage of whatever sales are out there in the internet to have them build and create your business cards for you. Now, I've seen advertisements with business card companies as low as say $4.99 for a pack of 250 business cards. So these are very professional business cards. They are embossed, and you choose the background, you choose whatever you want in there, and so you access this internet site, business card creation site, and you have thousands of templates that you can use. But really what you need on this business card is just your name, your city, state, and your zip code, your phone number, your email address, and obviously your LinkedIn URL. All right, that's all you need, because it's just a business card that you're going to give to another person when you're networking. And then of course you can have a background on this business card or something, but be very careful about whatever you choose, because you don't want it to stereotype you as a certain type of individual that is only aligned with this category or that category. So as an example, let's say that you are a nurse and you're creating a business card, and you choose to have a medical background on it. So when you hand out this business card for some other potential opportunity that might have nothing to do with the medical industry, then this could obviously create a problem for you. So you just have to be careful about that. Okay. Now, one of the things that I'd like to mention to you is on this slide, it says professional appearance. So it's really important that when we're networking, that we're meeting people to sell ourselves, that we always be professionally dressed. We must always be professionally dressed when we're selling ourselves, because first impressions count. Don't make the mistake like I did, which happened to be like 20 years ago. I was working as a manager in high tech. I was at home. I worked from home. And I was outside doing gardening, and I looked very disheveled. Went to the grocery store to get some Gatorade or something like that. And who would I happen to meet? Um, well, the VP of an organization that I always wanted to work for. Okay. And I looked like a total wreck. All right. Obviously, I made a mistake. I should never have introduced myself looking like that, because it certainly didn't send a good impression, even though I tried to explain that I was doing gardening, etc., etc. If I'm selling myself for a professional, opportunity with the hopes of getting some kind of interview or aligning myself with a company, I'm not ever going to do that again. I would obviously be well dressed, and I would have a professional appearance. So my mistake was that I jumped and I took advantage of this with a very poor professional appearance, and it never did anything for me. Uh, so I actually heard about it later on, and what a total misjudgment that was on my part. So please don't ever allow that to happen to you. But you'll be always marketing yourself when you're networking. So however you look based on the clothes that you're wearing, how you're groomed, whatever accessories you're wearing can make a distinctive um, impression as to what type of person you are. All right. So be very careful, and I just are using this on this slide. Be very careful that when you are presenting yourself, when you're doing your job search, if you're networking, that you look glamorous and that you're selling yourself, because first impressions do count and you don't want it to destroy your credibility. Okay. Now, when we're networking and we're selling ourselves either online or in person, we need to have what we call a prove it or a portfolio. And typically that would be a resume, a cover letter, a reference sheet. It could include also your college transcripts, your diplomas. It could have letters of recommendation. It could have all your other things that you'd use as an accomplishment through, such as positive emails. It could have photographs of whatever, you receiving awards and things like that. Okay. But this is what we call your portfolio. They call it a prove it or brag book content. Obviously, there's a lot more information here, but the intent is to always have available, either electronically or physical, um, documentation that you can send at a moment's notice when you're networking. Okay. So I would suggest that everything is based on technology today, that you would have a lot of this in an electronic format that you can push out as an attachment to an email, or possibly to someone's telephone number through a text as attachment method, or through some other mean or mode, so that you can sell yourself if they ask for that information. Okay. So let's move forward and talk about the next slide. I want to talk about this one because this is so critical. Give me one sec here. I just want to go back here and look at this. Okay. I want to talk about the email that we use, which is critical in actual how we sell ourselves and how we distribute our resume and all the professional information that we're going to need to sell ourselves. I would suggest to everyone on this call that when you are conducting your professional job search, that you do not use your private email address to do your job searching and your professional selling of yourself. So I know that this comes as a shock to some people, and here's the reason why. I'm going to explain everything to you in, say, four steps. Some of us, as I've noticed when I looked at the roster before we signed up, this is obviously your private email address, and so your professional email address needs to be identified as your first name, followed by your last name, at a service provider like Gmail. We don't want to use a service provider like Hotmail. We don't want to use a service provider like AOL. And we typically don't want to use a service provider like Broward.edu or possibly Yahoo. And while we utilize Yahoo and AOL and the other service providers for our private email, that's fine. But when we are trying to send a and make an impression and try to send a signal to those that are receiving our communication. We want to communicate to them that we are in touch with technology, that we are very knowledgeable about data security. And so one service provider that is number one out there is Gmail, because it is the most secure, it is the most data secure, it has the highest encryption method utilization and software creation routine. And so we can feel comfortable that when we're using this type of service provider, that we don't have to worry about possible hacking or breach of security at Google, because they take a lot of or spend a lot of money in making sure their system is intact and secure. So if we have a professional email address that identifies our first name and our last name at gmail.com, then that implies that we are with technology, and that when they receive our email, they know who it's coming from. Obviously, your first name and your last name, okay? Now, if your first name and last name at gmail.com is already taken by someone else or used by another user, you can do your first name and your last name 2 digits or 4 digits at gmail.com. So, in other words, it could be Michael Nation 123 at gmail.com, or Michael Nation 1234 at gmail.com, or it could be Michael Nation at gmail.com. So the other thing I want to mention is when we're creating this professional email address, that we do not use any dots or any underscores. So we would not say michael.nation at gmail.com or michael_nation at gmail.com, because when we identify an email address, there is a hyperlink bar, which is a little bar that goes underneath our email address. Sometimes you see it in blue. That could cover the dot or cover the underscore. So if they're not going to copy and paste your email address to send a communication reply, they're going to retype it. And if that bar is there, they're not going to see the dot, they're not going to see the underscore. So you'll never get that email. So that's the first thing about your professional email. And you need to make sure that you have this when you're professionally job searching and communicating, because it does reflect on your professionalism. All right. Now, here's the real reason why we want to do this. If you are using your private email address and you are choosing to do very rigid and very structured and very proactive and very driven job searching, which is taking anywhere from 10, 14, 16-hour days, or whatever you're doing to make it happen, you need to be in an environment where you are solely concentrating on what you're doing. If you are using your private email address to do your solicitations, you're going to always be bombarded by emails from your friends, from your significant other, from acquaintances, from spam, from advertisements and things like that. So if you're in the mode of utilizing your private email address to send out communication or correspondence for job search, for job opportunities, and you're looking for emails coming back, you're going to have to sort through a lot of spam, and you're going to have to sort through a lot of stuff in your inbox to try and figure out, is this coming from a potential employer, recruiter, staffing agency? So you don't want to be in that mode. So you create a unique professional email address that is different from your private email address. Your private email address will still exist, but you're not going to create it in Google or Gmail, because you can have unlimited emails addresses in Gmail, and you're going to create a unique professional email address based on your first name, last name at gmail.com, so that whenever you are in your job search mode or your professional career transition, you're going to be only working in an email address that is specific to securing employment. So there's nothing else coming into that email but communication between you and employers and you. But here's the other reason why you want to do that. You're going to set up your professional email address as a filing cabinet. So it is now going to be a virtual filing cabinet. So for every company that you reach out to, you're going to create a folder. So if it's company A that you've reached out and sent your resume, cover letter, and application, you'll create a folder in your professional email address as company A, and so forth for the other companies. If you've reached out to a recruiter by their personal name or email address, then you'll create a folder on that for that person as well. So now you have these repositories set up in your professional email address so that you can now categorize and track everything. So this is the scenario. You decide you want to apply to company A, you've created your cover letter, your resume, and now you email this company A and you send it out to them. You copy yourself back. And obviously you're working in your professional email address. So when you receive that copy back into your inbox, you're going to put that into company A folder. And when company A replies back to you, that communication goes into company A folder. And you keep doing this for all the different jobs that you apply to. Additionally, you can put in these folders all the other documentation that you need so that you can make reference to it as well. So you just send it to yourself, send it to your professional email address, okay? Why is this important? Because when you're in your job search mode, and you're in 3 weeks or 4 weeks into it, and you get a call that says, "Hey, Michael," so you get it on your smartphone. "Hey, Michael, I just decided that we'd like to bring you in for an interview based on a resume that you sent us 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. Can we set up a schedule for a potential interview?" And you might have no idea who this person is, and you have no idea what you sent them. So you will say, "Thank you very much for the call. I'm presently mobile. Can I reach out to you in about 10 minutes to set up this potential interview?" And they would say, "Absolutely." So they give you their name and their company information, and basically you hang up, tell them thank you very much, and you hang up. Okay. Now immediately you open up your professional email address. And as a result of opening up your professional email address, give me 1 second, I'm just going to open up this chat. Let me see. Yes, okay, so Millicent had a question. "I have a problem with LinkedIn. It doesn't allow me to update my example email and phone number." So I can't actually tell you at this moment, Millicent, how to do that. But I would say that if you're having a problem, you can always reach out to the customer service on a LinkedIn website, and they can either through some kind of chat or AI, they'll be able to identify how you can resolve that issue. Okay. So what you're going to do now is that you're going to utilize, you're going to make, so you got this call, you hung up, you're going to go into your professional email address, you're going to go to that folder, and then you're going to look at what information you sent this company, your resume, your cover letter, everything. So now you're in sync. So you call them back and you say, "Yep, this is Michael Nation. Basically, I got your call. Let's go ahead and set up an interview. I do remember sending you the resume for this job opportunity." And what you have now created is an impression, a positive impression on this individual who has reached out to you, because all of a sudden they realize that you are absolutely highly organized. Okay, so that's the reason why we want to create this unique email address. All right, let's move forward and talk about organizing your job search. So this is what we just spoke about, right? So when you're applying to jobs, you're going to obviously identify in your special repository all the folders that we just created. You're going to identify any notes or special communication. You're going to email all of this back to that folder, to that professional email address folder, all right? Or when it comes into the inbox of your professional email address, you're going to move it to the specific folder. So all the constant communication that you're having with these employers. So this now becomes really important, because at the end of the day, whenever you have time, you're going to have to go through all these folders and start identifying, is there anything pending that you need to follow up on? So you have all of these potential opportunities. Remember, now that we're using AI, we can start sending out close to 8 or 10 applications a day. So we can completely, um, flood the potential job opportunities with our applications, because the AI tool is doing this for us at such a fast rate. Okay, so we become highly productive, but no, we need to stay on top of our game, and we need to be following up, because there's no sense in creating all of this documentation and sending the applications to potential employment opportunities if you don't stay on top of your game and follow up when you get some kind of correspondence. Okay, so your professional email address becomes like a filing cabinet, and you can create folders that says, a folder could say to follow up, and and then you can create another folder, things to address, and whatever you want to create in your professional email address, in these folders, so you can use it to track and manage your job search. All right, and why is this so important? Because it's mobile with you. You can take it anywhere you are. So you don't have to be in your office and accessing your hard drive of your computer or your laptop. You can basically take it wherever you're going and have it available at a moment's notice. Okay, so when we're doing job applications, remember that it's really important that when you're actually filling out the job application, that you address everything that they're asking for. All right, so when, if you have to go to an interview, and obviously you arrive there very early, they might give you a physical job application to fill out. So you basically make sure that you'd fill out every potential request that they're asking for. Do not leave anything open on a job application, because there's a good chance that they will actually scan this application into their database. And if the scanner doesn't actually find all the completed requirements, then it might either put it in another folder for later validation or verification, or it might actually just trash it, similar to your resume that never met the requirements for the employer. So be very careful about these applications that you're filling out. So this is typically a standard application worksheet, what it might look like. So just remember, whenever they're asking you for this information, and obviously they want you to physically fill it out, if you go to the site, or obviously fill it out electronically when they email it to you, please make sure that you complete it. Okay, for the reasons that I just mentioned about the software scanning. Okay, so following up, we talked about this, that you're going to follow up using your professional email address folder method. You can follow up through telephone, email, through your network, or even text messages, whatever you choose to do your follow up. Make sure you're constantly tracking all your activities. All right. Now it says here, participate in the hiring process at least 3 times. I have no idea what that slide means. I mean, I took over this position 8 weeks ago, and there's some things on some of these slides that will obviously have to be removed. I'm in the process of redoing them anyway. So I apologize. Whatever you see there in light brown, it says keep records of your follow-up results, participate in the hiring process at least 3 times. Well, as far as participating in the hiring process, it's not just 3 times, it's consistently until you get hired. Okay, so let's move forward and basically talk about this. We're almost at the end. Okay, so don't take the job search personally. Remember that if you don't have to get any contacts and it seems to be going slow as far as your networking, it's a process that takes time. All right, so you have to remain flexible, and you have to be professional, and you're going to depend on your positive affirmations, to make sure that you always stay charged. Now, when you reach out to a person, either through sending them some kind of email and they're doing something good for you, or possibly that you interviewed with them, you're going to send a thank you email within 4 hours. Okay? It is not the next day, it is not 12 hours. Um, it is basically within 4 hours. Because if you have an interview and you wait to send them a thank you letter, they may be making that decision to hire somebody within, say, 4 or 6 hours after the last interview. And you want to make sure that you send them a really nice, courteous, professional thank you email that identifies your abilities and your strengths, redoing and resending it again and convincing them that you're the best candidate and why you'd like to work for that company, right? So here's a generic, potential thank you letter. Okay, so this is subject line, great to talk to you today, and so this is just a sample. Okay, now do you have to use this? Absolutely not. You basically go into Google and you can look at lots of samples of interview thank you letters, or you can basically have AI create the interview thank you letter based on the job description and the actual interview. Whichever you choose, it's very important that you structure an interview thank you letter and have it out to them as quickly as possible. That means that you need to have their correct email address. You need to know their first name and their last name so you can address it to them properly. And so that is all part of your professionalism and your professional conduct. Okay, so if we are told no when we interviewed that we never met the criteria, don't take it personal. However, you can send what we call an opportunity letter, which you're identifying that you received notification that you never were selected for the position, um, that you then identify in the second paragraph, as you can see in here, that you still believe that you are a very good candidate for this job opportunity. And as a result, in the third paragraph, you'd like to identify that if the person that they selected doesn't exceed their expectations, that you are willing to have them reach out to you for another formal interview. All right. So what does this mean? It means that you never burn your bridges, that even if you don't get the job opportunity for that specific company, something that you always wanted, you never give up that opportunity of reaching out to them to continue this relationship, and you're always going to keep them available in your contact list, and you're always going to be reaching out to them and building that relationship, so they're part of your network now. Okay, you spent all this time getting ready for that interview. You did a fabulous job. It's just that they chose someone else. Does not matter. You never give up that relationship. All right, so preparing for the interview. So typically I would say, based on the slide, that you almost always prepare for the interview before you send the resume and the cover letter out. So all the things that we talked about is what you should be aware of, that you're going to basically be ready, that you will do the necessary research so that you can actually make a good impression when the interview comes around, or when you are ready to go to the actual interview. All right, so this is a summary checklist. This is basically what we talked about. So I'm just going to come to the bottom here, and these are all the things that we talked about today. All right, so for all the things that we talked about today, and the presentation is almost over, we're 16 minutes over, the most important thing for all of you to think about is leveraging artificial intelligence, which is ChatGPT AI, or Microsoft Copilot AI, or Google Gemini AI, to make your job search and your documentation generation highly productive, to reduce your stress level, and to reduce the time that you're involved in getting moving forward with your career transition. Okay, so this is almost the end, so we're always going to stay positive. Remember, you're not employed, you're in career transition. Remember that you're fabulous, believe in yourself, and always create as many positive affirmations and flood your mind with them every single day. And that's the end of this presentation. Now we can open it up if anyone wants to use the mic to ask any questions. Um,